Doing something every day, patiently, without complaining or judging, builds up willpower within us, which we can then transform into desire. The most important force that helps us fulfill our desires, heal from illness, and become rich and happy is willpower. Asceticism is energy. That's why we restrict ourselves in certain ways now, so that you'll have the strength for something great. Pure and clear, there are no other ways. The most effective way is this. So, dear friends, welcome to the Omline channel. Let's talk today about how to practice asceticism and how to define your intention, the reason why you're practicing asceticism. First of all, what is asceticism? Asceticism is the concentrated gathering of strength. It is a tool for concentrating energy within you. And again, let's take a look and figure out what this willpower is. So we have the ability to concentrate the energy of emotions within ourselves. We very often concentrate negative emotions within ourselves. We're experts at that. We have the ability to concentrate the energy of love, which in principle, many of us are learning to do. But we're still mostly just average at it. We don't know how to concentrate love, and there is the most important force that helps us fulfill our desires, to heal from illnesses, become rich and happy, and see all our expectations fulfilled, and that is willpower. In fact, asceticism is all about accumulating the energy of willpower, and that is why any self-restraint you impose on yourself, especially if you make a wish there, that would be called asceticism. And we actually encounter this quite often. People end up practicing this kind of asceticism when they say that any wish will come true. Like that of a peasant who goes to gather firewood in the neighboring forest every day. Daily patient endurance and self-discipline, the act of doing something, accumulates willpower within us, which we can then transform into a desire. And then, in response to that very desire, the law of attraction begins to work very quickly. Opportunities, events, and circumstances are drawn to you, and you get what you want. So, it turns out that most of us have very little of this power, this positive karmic bank account, this willpower. But there are people who have a good, large, positive karmic bank account. That is, it can be increased, in fact, from a past life through your charity. You were a kind of person who helped everyone, or you died heroically while protecting your loved ones. That is, such merits from a past life make you an oligarch in this life. This is one of the well-known billionaires who appears on the KF Forbes list. You all know him. And so on, you point to people. He is precisely the one who once lay in the embrasure and defended his comrades during the Great Patriotic War. In other words, you can imagine how well self-sacrifice is rewarded by fate and karma. But we won't sacrifice ourselves. We don't need to do that. We have other ways to build up a positive bank account for fulfilling our desires. And the simplest way is to accumulate willpower. So once again, we have the accumulation of emotional energy, love and willpower, and here is where asceticism comes in. The third type is some kind of action, the so-called doing, and before you know it, something will work out. Today's topic is precisely asceticism. Whatever, it's not just self-restraint, it's the concentration of willpower and then directing it toward achieving your goal. So before you take on any kind of ascetic practice, you need to decide how long you're willing to stick with it. That is, it's better if it's a month, even better 40 days, because over 40 days the energies in your subconscious are restructured. They accumulate within your already energetic spiritual body. Sufficient willpower is gathered. And after that you make a wish, and everything begins to come true on its own. That's why I recommend taking on a period of self-discipline for about 40 days. Choose a form of self-discipline and limit yourself in something you love for a month or 40 days. This is a significant period known as Chaturmasya, during which for 108 days, please tune in to our live streams. We really love these 108 days because if you observe asceticism during these 108 days, absolutely any wish will come true afterward. You decide the duration yourself. Let's take a look. The classic forms of asceticism recommended by religions are fasts, which are observed in every religion. Lent, Great Lent, Ramadan, and so on. That is, restricting yourself for an average of 28 to 40 days, sometimes longer, like in the 4-year cycle, 108 days. Restricting yourself in something, yes, or abstaining from something, yes, for example. Limiting sugar intake. Okay, everyone, just try keeping track of what you eat, making sure you don't eat sugar. And that alone will build up. Forcing yourself to wake up at the same time every day. What a struggle. Asceticism for some of us. Daily walks of 40 minutes or an hour work very well as a must-have. Regardless of the weather, nature, or your state of mind, you go out, you walk, and in the process, you're strengthening your physical body, your energy, specifically your etheric body, and you have more energy. And on top of that, it strengthens your physical body and your energy, specifically your etheric body, giving you more energy. Plus, walking every day is a wonderful form of ascetic practice. There are many options for ascetic practices, and whichever one you choose, it's best, of course, to pick something that imposes some kind of restriction on you. For example, if you drink alcohol regularly, decide for yourself that you'll give up alcohol for a certain period. If you smoke, give up cigarettes. If you have a sweet tooth, give up sweets. If you love meat, or if meat is simply important to you, then give up meat for a month or 40 days and see how much lighter you feel in every sense. You'll accumulate a lot of energy. But always remember, this is what asceticism is. It's about your focus. Don't be afraid to sacrifice your desires to build willpower, so that you gain the strength for something great, something pure and bright, to fulfill a truly meaningful desire. That is why we limit ourselves in something now, in our actions, in our desires, in our weaknesses, in what is dear to us. Or we limit ourselves to do something every day. That is, we commit ourselves to doing something every day. In other words, we take on certain obligations. But in the end, we gain exactly that energy. The energy of will, the energy of willpower, the energy of determination, all aimed at fulfilling your desires. Therefore, when you undertake ascetic practices, make sure they impose limitations on you. That is what sacrifice is. You sacrifice your desires, or some of your comfort, or your sense of ease, or the ability to do whatever you want. This is actually one of the highest forms of sacrifice, because on the one hand, when ritual sacrifices are made, the throat of some rooster or animal is cut. But here you are, as it were, restricting yourself. You are not sacrificing that part of yourself. You are limiting your desires. That is the true meaning of asceticism. Here you remain alive, yes, but at the same time, it is a sacrifice. When you practice asceticism, before you undertake it, you must honestly determine for yourself the duration, the specifics of what you're undertaking, and what you hope to gain as a result. You can undertake asceticism for yourself, or you can undertake it for a loved one. For example, a loved one of yours is going through a difficult time, or they are ill, and they need precisely that willpower, divine blessing, or fulfillment of wishes to pull through, turn the situation around, or be healed. For this, you can take on the ascetic practice on their behalf, that is, dedicated to someone else. In other words, even when we perform this kind of ascetic practice, the universe rewards us 2- or 3-fold later, because we act not out of selfishness, not for ourselves, but for that brother. And then your wishes will be fulfilled, and you will pass on your will to the person for whom you are performing this ascetic practice, and they will truly achieve the desired result. For example, you need energy to make a breakthrough in your career, or you want to find the relationship of your dreams, to meet someone. You need to recover from some illness, or you want to reach a completely new karmic level. There are no other ways. The most effective way is asceticism. Be sure to decide for yourself right at the beginning why you are doing this and stick to it. You can't interrupt your ascetic practice. For example, you stick to a sugar-free diet for a week, then eat a bunch of jam, and then go back to your ascetic practice. Consider that after that, you still have to continue your ascetic practice for another 40 days after eating those jars of jam. That's why it's best not to interrupt your practice, and it's precisely this very fact, the continuity of building up energy, that matters. You're not doing anything supernatural. You're simply curbing a habit of yours, whether it's related to food or behavior. Or, conversely, you're developing a positive habit, That's why it's best not to interrupt it if something did get interrupted for reasons and circumstances beyond your control. For example, you went out and ate something at a cafe, and it turned out to have sugar in it, but you decided you'd eat without sugar. The point is that you did it unintentionally. So next time, just be more careful and don't eat it. It just happened. Without fanaticism, but most importantly, be honest. Honesty is precisely the guna of goodness. It is the guna of the energy of will. It is precisely that energy which helps and will help you later to obtain what you desire, what you are striving for. And remember, my dears, that when you observe asceticism, you must not whine, feel sorry for yourself, or in any way feel unhappy. In other words, the most important thing is that willpower and whining are incompatible. Asceticism is the energy of willpower, therefore, you must not whine. So, asceticism is not a punishment, it is an act of your own free will, an act of accumulating and concentrating energy, or an opportunity to take your life to a whole new level. Therefore, welcome to the Omline Academy, and we will help you unlock your superpowers, teach you how to use them in everyday life, manage your energy of will and love, influence situations, change yourself, influence people, see the future, read minds, and many other amazing things.